Reliable information about the IOF's casualties is hard to come by, since they often lie or don't even report the numbers.
Every accusation is a confession. This is a channel called First Thought. Spin off of Second Thought. Okay. Israel's collapse. Israel is going to implode. Okay.
The collapse of Israel, once unthinkable, is now not only possible, but imminent. After the Palestinian resistance exposed Israel's impenetrable security as all hype on October 7th of last year, Israel responded by carpet-bombing Gaza and putting it under total siege, committing unspeakable war crimes in the process. And as they commit this genocide on one front, they are invading on another, taxing a weary occupation force that's already spread thin. This violent chaos is being fueled by a desperate expansionist ideology attempting to maintain a rusting iron grip on power and Palestine. But before we get to the video, we need to take a moment to thank our channel sponsor, Aura, a rare...
Obviously. Unspeakable war crimes brought to you by Aura. It's just...
right now. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about it, because Aura protects me from this exact scenario.
A genocide of the highest order, brought to you by Skillshare.
Right now.
Damn it.
Because not only is national public
We
data
do in
not
fact live in a society. Go on.
Israel is going to collapse as a direct consequence of their actions since October 7th. The genocide has been simmering in the background for decades, but Israel's fanatical bloodlust in the last year has turned the entire world, with the notable exception of a handful of Western powers, against them. We could see the cracks begin to form when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dissolved the war cabinet after Benny Gantz resigned in protest over the handling of the genocide. Gantz's departure left Netanyahu surrounded with ultra-nationalist yes-men, who are staunchly opposed to a ceasefire and instead favor creating Greater Israel. The resignation may not threaten Netanyahu's hold on power, but it has drastically divided Israeli society during a very tense and violent time. Adding to Netanyahu's troubles, Israel's largest labor union declared a general strike sparked by the regime's failure to meaningfully address the hostage situation in Gaza. The resulting strike shut down schools, businesses, and essential services throughout Israel. Following, but unrelated to the strike, tens of thousands of citizens took to the streets demanding an end to all military operations and for Netanyahu to resign. The Israeli regime has become so desperate that they have ordered the conscription of ultra-Orthodox Jews, a group historically exempt from service. The armed forces are eager to replenish their dwindling ranks with some of the 63,000 ultra-Orthodox men now eligible, and
I believe Israel has about, between 300,000 and 400,000 people mobilized right now, right? Ultra-Orthodox conscription, I think, has a bit more to do with a sense of just, justice and the fact that they don't have to serve, whereas other Jews do. And also the fact that they are multiplying very quickly, so they don't want to get into a situation where the Orthodox population overtakes and then their military is just proportionately shrunk.
Let's say, strongly encouraged to serve. But Israel has always had a robust economy, so they'll be fine, right? Well, no. It actually looks pretty grim. Local institutions have already moved $40 billion to foreign accounts because it turns out genocide and starting regional wars creates instability. Who could have guessed? Right now, those in the know include major investment funds and insurance.
40 billion out of what? Out of what GDP? I think Israel's GDP in 2022 was 525 billion down to 509. Look at Iran. Oh my God. Look at Israel's enemies. Boof. And they're miles away. Yeah.
Who could have guessed? Right now, those in the know include major investment funds and insurance companies, who are currently the key drivers of this capital flight as they seek to avoid further exposure to the collapsing economy, and because missile attack insurance policy is extremely expensive. Other international investors, such as Denmark's pension fund, which manages 42 billion.
What is that? What is missile attack insurance? No, the Iron Dome is not insurance. Oh, is this just people claiming insurance because they've insured their properties? against rocket attacks? Or does the government pay people out for compensation? I'm guessing they probably do bring some aid. It's a joke. Okay. Israel's economy is not really built for wars that last over a year. Their economy is built for wars that last 30 days, right? Like, or even less. They're used to just overwhelming the enemy military very, very quickly and sweeping across the desert or up the hills and winning that way. But obviously Hamas decided to turn Gaza into a swamp, basically, of tunnels, in the sense that you just have to slog through it incredibly slowly to get anywhere. At the end of the day, war can hurt Israel's economy as much as you want, but you're never getting them to a position where they're going to throw down their weapons and stop fighting, as long as they're against enemies who are vowing to destroy them.
Billion euros divested from 4 Israeli banks financing
Again, this whole this whole thing, the way Second Thought's talking, is only a reasonable concept if you think Israelis are just going to give up and leave, or give up and allow like a one-state solution with refugee return and just become a minority in the Middle East in a phase where minorities are getting absolutely fucking murked everywhere. Especially, I mean, we already know what happened to Jewish minorities in the rest of the Middle East, so yeah, neither of these are options right now.
Legal settlements. This was followed by Norway's KF.
Check TA35. It's Israel's mini S&P 500. Is that Israeli stock? Is that their top 35? TA35 index. One day. Jesus? What the fuck happened here? What happened at 9 in the morning? Is this Assad? Is everyone happy? Okay, hang on. Huh. Okay. That's I didn't expect to see that. Oh God. Him and Hakeem do the same thing when they talk about the economy. Is like they just, with no context or no proportions or no percentages, like it's just like, oh, this $700 billion, 17% of GDP. Like what compared to what?
LP, selling its $69 million stake in Caterpillar because of the company's role in aiding the genocide. The divestment movement is gaining traction internationally, further eroding Israel's economy. Israel's shekel has also been in continuous decline since the escalation of the ethnic cleansing campaign. Additionally, both Moody's and Fitch Ratings downgraded Israel's credit rating twice, causing Israel's borrowing costs to explode. Now the regime must balance financing a genocide, war in Lebanon, and a floundering economy. Finally, the Central Bank of Israel has estimated that military spending will reach $70 billion by 2025, driving...
Again, what's that in proportion to? What? $70 billion? Okay, that sounds huge. That's crazy. Fuck me. Compared to, okay, what? So if you're talking about as a percentage of GDP, Israel's GDP right now is what, 500 billion? So as a percentage of GDP, that means their defense spending is, what, like 14% of GDP, right? Unless I'm a moron. Calculator. That's right, isn't it? US defense spending. You think they're spending 10%? US defense spending as a proportion of GDP is low now. It's only 3%, but I'm pretty sure back in the day, even back when America had a pretty fat economy compared to the rest of the world, their 67 was 9% of GDP for military spending.
Driving the country's debt to GDP ratio to 67%, which will require severe austerity.
67% debt to GDP? Compared to what? Compared to what? How many countries have their debt to GDP ratio as like over 100%? Debt to GDP ratio by country list. Is this the entire video? America, 123%. Japan, 261%. Italy, 144%. France, 111%. United Kingdom, 100%. Spain. South Africa. India. Belgium. Hey, okay. Okay.
Measures to avoid financial crisis.
That Starbucks boycott is really hitting them hard, eh? Really getting rammed.
They are financing their violence with a currency constantly losing value. You don't need to be...
What? What am I looking at? Dollar to shekel. 2019, What am I looking at? What are any of these numbers? What was it today? Shekel to dollar. Come on. Where's the chart? Give me a chart. US shekel to dollar exchange rate. Come on. Let's get the news. 1 year. Let's go 2 years. October it drops. Let's go 5 years. So they were already on their way down before October. Today it's going back up. 217. 0.27. Schmeckles. What am I looking at? What is this? Globes. Second to only Ukraine. The cost of Israel's defense burden. The defense budget approved by the government for 2025 is 111 billion shekels, or 6.5% of GDP. Why did my calculation give me 14? What? At Yom Kippur, it was, yeah, this is like your 60s, 70s, yeah, countries were doing this. They were spending shitloads on defense. Cold War, right? What's he doing? What is he doing to me? What's the 2025 stat? Oh, this is Putin increasing military spending 25%. That's a defense budget. I guess I could, did he say 70 billion? It wouldn't be 70 billion then. Because 70 billion as a percentage of Israeli GDP would be 14%. So if it's only 6.5, then being generous, we're actually only at 35 to 40 billion dollars. Where's he getting these numbers from? Why is he? Oh, this is Times of Israel. This would be state budget to increase defense spending, cut social services and education, to finance the war, which is estimated to cost 66 billion. Okay. Is that the cost of the war though? Or is he talking about annual defense spending? Oh, he's saying, wait, no, he's saying the cost of the war, not massive increase to the defense budget, which will clock in at 27 billion. Could rise up to 40 billion. Oh, he was taking the cost of the war and saying it was their defense budget. Is that what he said?
That military spending will reach $70 billion by 2025.
No, this isn't what you would say. You would say, yeah, for military spending, if you're talking about military spending, people talk about military spending per year, not. Okay.
Driving the country's debt to GDP ratio to 67%,
huge.
Which will require severe
debt.
Currency constantly losable. The port of Eilat, Israel's Red Sea port and one of its most important trade logistics centers, declared bankruptcy after 8 months of inactivity following the Houthi blockade. 40,000 businesses have closed within Israel, and up to 60,000 are expected to have closed by the end of the year. These are numbers not seen since the global economic shutdown following the COVID pandemic. And it isn't just money that's fleeing Israel. Israelis are too.
Oh.
Ironic, considering the often repeated line that Israel is the
Never mind. Okay.
Safest place on earth for Jews, which is the most load-bearing excuse given for its existence.
Load-bearing.
In 2023, Israel had a net migration loss of 55,300 people, according to data from the Population and Immigration Authority. They go on to say that current data indicates the total will be near 70,000 for 2024. Probably because people don't want intermittent showers of Iranian missiles in their weather reports. Jokes in poor taste aside, some viewers may not be aware that of the people that have emigrated to Israel since the Nakba in 1948...
Wait. Why? Oh, okay, wait. Why is he taking Ukraine, United States of America, and Russia for immigrants to Israel since 1948? Why did the white countries? Why did he only take the white countries? Why would you do that? Look at Ukraine. Oh, is Crimea been ripped off of it? Is that the meme? Yeah, Ukraine's got this. Did he Photoshop that off? How do you get a map of Ukraine without Crimea? Did he Google search it or? Okay. What am I?
43% of them, 1.4 million people, arrived after 1990. This means...
What did he say there?
Reports. Jokes in poor taste aside, some viewers may not be aware that of the people that have emigrated to Israel since the Nakba in 1948, 43% of them, 1.4 million people, arrived after 1990.
That's such a strange stat to use when you're summarizing people who went to Israel after the Nakba. And then using 1990s with Russia, America, Ukraine. Again, there's a big gap there between 48 and 1990 and Jews who were arrived in Israel in fairly large numbers. Again, that's intentional, right? That's an intentional propaganda. That's an intentional propagandistic use of data, right? He has intentionally just tried to dodge the fact that the majority of Israeli Jews came from Middle East and North Africa. Yeah, I know it's because I know this is fall of the USSR, yeah, but do you see how he's talking about Israelis who arrived after the Nakba and he just jumps to 1990, not mentioning obviously that, again, the majority of Israeli Jews are non-white. They're not from the Soviet Union or Western Europe or America. They're from Middle East, North Africa.
This means that
Just over
over
half of them.
15% of Israelis have some clear and living connection to another, likely safer country. And that's not all. Many of these settlers have had children born in Israel who also have, via their parents, citizenship rights and claims in their parents' nation of origin, adding hundreds of thousands of people to that total. A huge portion of the population that has the option to leave.
So what happens when they go? Who's left? You know who's left, right? Is the Mizrahi population. They're the least likely to go. Say for like Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, I know, right? Whoops. So you're just leaving the most far right Israelis to stay. Okay.
And it seems like they are. Poll data released in July shows that more flight is highly likely since a full quarter of Israelis, that's 2.3 million people, would immediately emigrate if given a, quote, practical opportunity to do so.
Quarter of Jewish Israelis and 40% of Arab Israelis contemplate emigration. Contemplate immigration. Contemplate. 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 Poor Arab Israelis, second thought. Really? Is this collateral to you? 40% of Arab Israelis. You want them... Is that collateral loss? Pushing those guys out with Iranian missiles. So why? It's so mean.
Is highly likely since a full quarter of Israelis, that's 2.3 million people, would immediately emigrate if given a, quote, practical opportunity to do so. Based on this data, we can reasonably assume a plurality, if not most, of that 2.3 million includes plenty of this 15% and their children. It would appear that settlers don't like dealing with the consequences of their actions. Israelis are having to abandon their ethnostate as a direct result.
The higher proportion there is Arab Israelis, bub. Quarter of Jewish, but 40% of these are Palestinians. Arab Israeli, those people they're Palestinians. 48ers, whatever you want to call them. They have a very complex identity.
Israelis. Plurality, if not most, of that 2.3 million includes plenty of this 15% and their children. Israelis are having to abandon their ethnostate as a direct result of its fascist and genocidal behavior.
Whoa.
On October 7th, the PRF exposed the massive holes in Israel's expensive and supposedly impenetrable defense apparatus, making a mockery of the racist and violent infrastructure. The shockwaves from...
What the fuck is the PRF? Oh, wait, am I stupid? Is that what it's called now? The PRF? The Palestinian Resistance Force. I've never heard of this. Is it because he doesn't want to say Hamas? Oh wait, is the PRF the Palestinian Relief Fund? It's not PCRF, PFLP? No, there's no no one calls it the PRF. What the fuck? Who calls it the PRF? It's not the Palestinian Relief Fund. That's not what he's talking about. They didn't do that. That's not what the Palestinian Relief Fund looks like. Unless you ask Israel, they probably think the Palestinian Relief Fund is full of people like this. He just made it up. God, this guy's really building the alternate world here, isn't he?
From this unprecedented success forced the unprepared Israeli regime to establish buffer zones in Gaza. A desperate attempt to prevent similar...
Yeah, I know he said Palestinian Resistance Forces, but this acronym is just... Did he invent it?
...failures in the future. Up north, near the Lebanese border, over 100,000 settlers fled their illegal settlements, with the IOF assisting their evacuation.
Why illegal? Why do you have to say... You don't give a fuck about international law. The people who lived in northern Israel are not illegal, you dumb fuck. Like, they're people they're citizens of the state of Israel. the amount of people I've had to argue, like, because again, I argue with bread tubers sometimes, like behind the scenes. I've got like bread tuber friends who still like me. I don't know why, but I still talk to them behind the scenes, right? Like we get on. And more than once I've been asked, like, those people in the north, are they not like occupiers? I'm like, no, they're not. They're mixed communities. It's Israel. They're citizens of Israel. It's not illegal. It's not illegal at all. It's legal as fuck. It's insanely legal that they're there. It's not legal to rocket their villages and make them flee. That's not legal.
This has effectively...
The disputed territory is, again, he'll just call it illegal for the whole thing because tankies like to just weaponize ignorance in international law and just pretend and just use it to try and invoke some kind of like they're the ones being normal, right?
He created another buffer zone, but within its own colonial borders. The first time such defensive measures have been implemented. The colonial regime is unable to guarantee settlers' safety due to Hezbollah targeting military installations, such as Iron Dome batteries, located in and around those settlements.
Wait, if Hezbollah are targeting military, why would the people who live in the settlements, why would they be in danger? Why would they have to flee? Again, military bases are separate from Israeli towns. They don't do it like Hamas. Like they're the ones that were turned into like ghost towns, right? This is Metula, right? Or Nazareth, the 99% Palestinian town that's had fires going off every now and then from Hezbollah rockets.
Israeli military leaders have since been forced to admit the severe limitations of the Iron Dome. An IOF retreat of this magnitude hasn't been seen in the north of the colony since the Yom Kippur War.
What? This use of jargon is so funny, man. Who talks like this?
The resistance's growing capabilities have repeatedly overwhelmed Israel's paper tiger defenses. After suffering heavy losses and repeated failures on the ground, the IOF has been forced to abandon their familiar tactics both in Gaza and against Hezbollah. For now, we'll focus on the latter.
Yeah?
Hezbollah's tunnel network and fortified positions are proving that Israel's ground strategy is a disaster, which is also true in Gaza, where similar tactics have proven too much for the IOF. So now, they're replacing ground troops with more indiscriminate airstrikes, desperately hoping to regain some control. Unfortunately, the Israeli Air Force has been unable...
I believe the airstrikes came before the ground forces in both cases. But okay.
...to hit meaningful military targets like rocket launchers. Perhaps something to do with their preference for targeting civilian populations.
Okay.
This mirrors Gaza's situation, as Israel's airstrikes have failed to stop rocket fire from Gaza's resistance forces. In short, Israel's reliance on ultimate...
Is that true? I know Hamas were firing rockets for a while, but they were far more sparse, right? On October 7th, they fired like 2,000 rockets. Had there been any days since? Hezbollah is different. Hezbollah can fire like 100 or 200 rockets a day for quite a while.
Ultimately ineffective air power is a sign of desperation.
Jeez.
Another typical tactic, at least for the IOF, is the use of corridors. In particular, the Netzarim and Philadelphia corridors, which have become critical for Israeli troops to get in and out of direct conflict zones while still maintaining significant presence. These corridors basically function as forts, heavily fortified routes enabling movement of troops and supplies without exposing them to the bold and effective Palestinian resistance. The Philadelphia corridor on the Gaza-Egyptian border is a more aggressive, hands-on way of enforcing the blockade on Gaza and hermetically sealing it off from the outside world. The Netzarim corridor serves a different purpose, allowing for the movement of troops and supplies in and out of Gaza. They also use it to carry out raids and other terrorist attacks, after which they return to the safety of the corridor. These corridors are utilized because Israel doesn't have enough active duty troops at any one time to maintain control of Gaza the way a conventional military would. Of course, another part of this is their...
No, that's not their strategy. What do you mean a conventional... The IDF is a conventional military, like by any means. Wouldn't you... why would you disagree with that as a tankie? Like, why... The IDF strategy, I don't agree with it, but their strategy is that they want to basically, quote-unquote, learn the lessons of Afghanistan. The idea behind what they're doing is that they want to do the opposite of what America did wrong in Afghanistan, which was America would capture a village or a town or something, and then they would leave a detachment there, and then they'd go to another one. Then they'd go to another one, then another one. And the problem was that because the Taliban were able to lie low away in Pakistan and in the mountains and everything, then they were able to basically have targets. The Americans just left targets for them all over the country, and then they were exposed. You have small detachments in each area, they can get hit back. Israel's strategy is to go to an area, clear it, and then go somewhere else, and then clear it, and then go somewhere else, clear it. And the whole idea is that they'll repeat this like a number of times until each Hamas return is like a diminishing return. So they come back, but they're weaker. There's less infrastructure. There's less room to rebuild your strength. There's less tunnels. There's less place to regroup. So, I mean, that's what they say they're doing. And that's what the analysts suggest they're doing. I don't know if it's because they're not a conventional military and they lack the manpower. How many IDF soldiers mobilized right now? I think the number of mobilized soldiers, it's varied, but I think it's been like they mobilized 360,000 people at the start of the war. I'm pretty sure those numbers are still close, no?
Over-reliance on airstrikes. Even Israel doesn't want to blow up too many of its own. But the weakness of Israel's military goes far deeper.
About 100K now, okay.
Their reputation for being an absolutely dominant force in the region is a fantasy. In reality, Israeli soldiers have been remarkably ineffective, as evidenced by the continued presence of the PRF forces in Gaza in places claimed to have been cleared.
Why didn't you just say Palestinian? Why do you have to make his own? Okay.
The visible cracks in the Iron Dome in the north are just as evident in Gaza, where it has struggled to handle the frequent barrages of rockets from the PRF.
Hang on. Every single claim here. Is he confusing this? Is he confusing this with Hezbollah? Have Hamas killed Israelis with rockets even in double digits since October 7th? Hezbollah have. They've killed soldiers. They fired about 4,000, between 2,000 and 4,000 on October 7th. So, 2024, okay. Yeah, I think the number of reported rocket attacks from Gaza is shrinking, no? Is there anyone else that documents this? Is Acolytes? Did they do it? They did Hezbollah, but not... May 26, rockets fired from Rafah towards Tel Aviv around 2 p.m. 1 line in Tel Aviv, 1 in Kfar Saba. 8 were launched, 3 intercepted, and 5 landed in open areas. Okay.
Now, critical infrastructure and Israeli citizens are more exposed than ever. It would appear that the Iron Dome is beginning to buckle.
That's just not true at all. They're not more exposed than ever from Gaza. What, compared to October 7th? Mate, shut up.
Under an increasing number of rocket and missile salvos. On the ground, the IOF has faced even harsher realities. Urban warfare in Gaza has proven catastrophic, with entire units suffering near total losses.
HTS coordinated with Israel. I know Israel has communicated their interests with Turkey, of course. But I see no evidence that Israel helped HTS achieve their military success.
It's completely made up. It's because of that one, I think there was one rebel commander who's not even HTS who said that he loves Israel. And people are quoting that because in the Times of Israel article, there's a picture of Giuliani underneath the quote. But it's just a picture of Giuliani because it's an article. The article is about the rebels, right? And, but yeah, it's really dumb. And and obviously... Hassan said a wrong thing and got called out on it, so he can never, ever walk it back, ever. He will just be wrong on that for the rest of his fucking life. It's also just people unwittingly doing Assad as talking points, because that's basically Assad. All my enemies are terrorist or Israel.
The PRF have used tunnels, dense urban environments, and fortified positions to neutralize Israeli ground assaults, forcing the IOF to fighting conditions that negate much of their technological edge. Even Israel's overwhelming air power has failed to weaken the Palestinian resistance forces, leaving Israel's military scrambling for solutions. In fact, their own carpet bombing has made it hard for troops and equipment to maneuver and navigate. The IOF coined the term devastated terrain warfare, and are now having to train their soldiers how to fight in the mess they caused. As evidenced by countless resistance highlight reels, they're not doing a good job.
These Hamas highlight reels. Do you know what I noticed about a lot of these Hamas videos is that they don't always, they rarely actually show you how much damage they caused. They just kind of show you like an explosion and then they cut the clip. Like with them putting little IEDs on tanks or firing shots or whatever, firing an RPG. But they don't really show you exactly like what they achieved.
Speaking of messes caused by the IOF, let's talk about their mounting casualties.
Okay.
The best data currently available puts it at more than 1,200 soldiers killed and over 5,000 injured. Numbers unseen since the Yom Kippur War. These numbers are out of date, especially with the invasion of Lebanon, but reliable information about the IOF's casualties is hard to come by, since they often lie or don't even report the numbers.
Every accusation is a confession. How does this guy think Israel hides masses of soldier deaths? They're a democracy. They have organizations in the country that hate the government. Hate. You think if the government was hiding a number of soldier deaths, you wouldn't have grieving family members? Like, where the fuck is my child? This would be huge. Meanwhile, how many fighters have Hamas claimed to have lost? Oh yeah, none. They've never really said. There's never been a Hamas official statement and any number of casualties, because that's not what they do. They don't do that until the end of the war.
In addition to the large number of casualties, the IOF has been bleeding.
You said they said 6,000. I think when the total death toll was 24,000. That's one guy, anonymous, quoted in Reuters, and Hamas disowned that number immediately afterwards. So they didn't admit anything. Maybe someone thought they lost 6,000, or maybe they had a good reason to say that. But as far as I remember, that was an anonymous person, unverifiable, and then official Hamas spokesperson said, no, it's not true. We have never been given a number from Hamas, like a clear number.
Equipment too, and the scale is staggering. 41 tanks, including the much-touted Merkava models, have been destroyed, damaged, or captured. 160 armored vehicles destroyed or disabled. 24 troop carriers were captured on October 7th alone. 17 drones...
Compared to what? Staggering. In what, a year and a few months?
...have been lost.
So they're saying 41 Merkava tanks. Do you know how many... So let's take it. In the 6-Day War, when Israel fought against 3 conventional armies with Soviet backing, do you know how many tanks Israel lost? Do you know how many tanks Israel lost in the 6-Day War? In 6 days. 19. In 6 days. Versus over a year. The Egyptians lost 60 tanks in 6 days. What are these compared to? Staggering. Okay. Ukraine loses like 50 tanks a day. Yeah, okay.
Destroyed, damaged, or captured.
How many tanks does Ukraine lose a day? Actually, how many tanks has Russia lost in Ukraine? That would be a more interesting number. 2,600. Okay. No, wait, that's an old stat. 9,000. Have Hamas captured tanks? Have I seen Hamas running around in Israeli tanks? I don't think so. Anyway.
160 armored vehicles destroyed or disabled. 24 troop carriers were captured on October 7th alone. 17 drones have been lost. 7 destroyed, 2 damaged, and 8 captured. 66 multiple rocket launchers have been either destroyed or captured, leaving Israel increasingly vulnerable. And these numbers are the, quote, official ones, meaning very likely a severe undercount.
Yeah.
Cross-referencing battle footage, leaked information about vehicle repair, testimony from Israeli hospitals, and so on indicates that everything from the number of Israeli soldiers dead and injured to destroyed or damaged equipment is several times higher.
This is unbelievable. The level of projection is fucking... Okay. The 1,200 number inclusive of October 7th. I'm pretty sure, for the 1,200 dead soldiers, Israeli? I think so?
Additionally, Israel's highly prized surveillance infrastructure...
Hamas also captured about 200 F-35s. Okay.
...structure has been laid to waste. Resistance forces have damaged or destroyed observation balloons and surveillance towers, which will limit Israel's ability to gather intelligence. Hezbollah has also struck critical blows against Israel's crumbling military. The group has worked swiftly to improve their tactics and weapons.
Did he do this before the ceasefire? There's no way. Remember what I told you about the way propaganda works in war for groups like Hamas and Hezbollah? It's not in their interest to let you know how many troops they lost, because they know the international community just sees the death toll. They just see Palestinian or Lebanese death toll, and they assume the worst, right? So people assume 42,000. Like, you literally hear like professionals saying that it's 44,000 civilians. I'm like, no, it's not. We have no idea how many of them are civilians or militants. But now that there's a ceasefire with Hezbollah, again, a ceasefire which included American terms in a side letter that said Israel reserves the right to fire into Lebanon if they see Hezbollah violating it. That was in that's terms that Hezbollah accepted. Which is the only thing, which is what you do, which you would only do if you were getting your ship pushed in and you needed a breather. That's what you do. As soon as that ceasefire was called, I think a day later, Hezbollah said that they estimated they might have lost up to 4,000 fighters. The total death toll in Lebanon, I think, was 3,800. So I don't think they're claiming all of them. Up to 4,000 would be unless the actual death toll overall is higher. But it seems like Hezbollah are claiming a majority of the deaths from the war. The pager attack permanently injured about 1,500, they said. Before the pager attack, the majority of Lebanese deaths were Hezbollah because they were fighting at the border. Double Rifter, do you have a stat for that? About the soldiers in Discord?
Weaponry to counter Israel's defense systems and to prepare for the invasion they knew would come.
What's this? What am I looking at? 35 tanks damaged. Armored personnel carriers 21. How many did he say? What's this? Armada Rota. What is his website? IDF soldier death toll. Whose numbers we're allowed to publish? 809. Where is he getting these numbers from? Does he say? IDF 41 tanks destroyed. 41. Is it including Lebanon? 41. There's no way. Vehicles. This is October 7th numbers. He said destroyed, damaged, or captured. He's not using Hamas numbers. There's no way. Hang on. Where is he getting 41 tanks? I don't think he has citations, does he? Sources. Tanks. Business Insider. Oh, really? What's this one? Electronic Intifada, you say? Wait, no, he is. In a recent audio message, Abu Obaida, spokesperson for the Qassam brigades, said that their fighters had struck 160 Israeli armored vehicles in the 2 weeks of Israel's ground operations in Gaza. So, oh no. Oh no. Where's the tank numbers? Where are we?
In addition to the staggering, 41 tanks, including the much-touted Merkava models, have been destroyed, damaged, or captured. 160 armored vehicles destroyed or disabled.
Okay, so he says that Hamas have destroyed or disabled 160 armored vehicles. Okay, and I go to his doc, and he says it's from the Electronic Intifada.
Or don't even report the numbers. In addition to the large number of casualties, the IOF has been bleeding equipment too, and the scale is staggering. 41 tanks, including the much-touted Merkava models, have been destroyed, damaged, or captured. 160 armored vehicles destroyed or disabled.
Okay, 160 armored vehicles destroyed or disabled. You go to his Google Doc. 160 armored vehicles from Electronic Intifada. And the Electronic Intifada article, which he doesn't mention in his doc actually, he just takes that quote. But the person they're quoting is the spokesperson for the Qassam brigades, Hamas's militant wing. He is quoting a Hamas spokesperson to say how many armored vehicles were hit. This is from the beginning of the... That's unbelievable, man. What the fuck am I watching?
24 troop carriers were captured on October 7th alone. 17 drones have been lost. 7 destroyed, 2 damaged, and 8 captured. 66 multiple rocket launchers have been either destroyed or captured.
66 multiple rocket launchers. Armada Rota, 2024. Oh, is that this website? Oh, okay. Resistance forces have captured or destroyed. Okay. Militant groups in Gaza and the West Bank. No, wait. What? Qassam. 59 makeshift. Qassam. These are not Israelis. An Israeli rocket launcher would not be called Qassam. This is losses. This is Hamas's losses. that he's framing as Israeli. He can't even read. So he quotes Hamas, a Hamas spokesperson, to say how many Israeli armored vehicles they destroyed. And then he goes on a data page that shows you how many multiple rocket launchers Hamas lost, but frames them as Israeli losses. What am I? 400,000 views. What am I watching? This is the biggest communist creator on YouTube. Why are you getting your talking points? Two things, actually. Why are you getting your talking points from Hamas spokespersons, from Islamic fundamentalists, who still won't even tell you how many soldiers they've lost? Israel does, by the way. They can't really hide that. They're a democracy. There'd be problems if they were just disguising dead soldiers. He said Israel lost 66 ML. I thought that sounded weird because I don't really know how much an MLR is part of Israel's arsenal. What? This data. What the fuck? Clip it. Someone clip the last 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. Like, please. I just need to tweet. I need to scorch the... Fuck me. The state of pro-Palestinians. Shut the fuck up, okay? This is not... You think this is pro-Palestinian? You think this is the kind of information that would be disseminated by someone who gives any single shit about Palestinians? The state of Israel is collapsing. People are fleeing. Their GDP is down to 67%. Their debt as a proportion of GDP is 67%. Meanwhile... Hamas have destroyed 66 of Israel's multiple rocket launchers. Bro, this guy is not pro-Palestinian. He's pro-Hamas, okay? He is pro-Hamas. That is not pro-Palestinian, okay? This is pro-axis of resistance. Jesus.
Leaving Israel increasingly vulnerable. Destroyed observation balloons.
What else? We've got 10 minutes left of this shit. Okay.
Defense systems.
Let's talk about Hezbollah. Okay, come on.
Hezbollah has also struck...
Hezbollah is stronger, okay? Hezbollah can inflict more damage, okay? Sometimes Hezbollah will kill like eight soldiers in one day in a village, right? Maruna Ras, Bintish Bale. I was there. I wasn't there, but my family was. 2006. Okay. Come on.
Critical blows against Israel's crumbling military. The group has worked swiftly to improve their tactics and weaponry to counter Israel's defense systems and to prepare for the invasion they knew would come, and now has. They've been fighting in solidarity with the PRF since October 8th, but only really pulled off the kid gloves in recent weeks. In the process, Hezbollah have shown off their updated capabilities and new weapons that can fly farther, hit harder, and do so with a level of precision that has left Israel scrambling.
Oh, so it's precision. Wait, I'm sorry. I thought it was because Israel was keeping their military too close to villages, which they're not, by the way. Like, there's a village and there's a military base. They are distinct. But if they're so accurate, then you have to think that their attacks on the civilian areas in Israel are intentional. And even if you think Israeli Jews are not civilians, okay, just to be clear, those northern communities that Hezbollah are hitting with their rockets are mixed. They are Arabic speakers living there, okay? Palestinians live here. That's why it's really weird seeing a Hezbollah rocket starting fires in fucking Nazareth more than once, okay? Because Nazareth is 99% Palestinian. It's a Palestinian town. Druze as well, obviously, yeah. Yeah, these are mixed communities. And Hezbollah does not distinguish. So I guess it's in solidarity with what, the PRF or Hamas, right? It's not, because it's obviously not in solidarity with Palestinians.
John Elmer over at the Electronic Intifada has been documenting some pretty incredible successes, such as a drone being sent to take out a jammer meant to make the very drone used for this mission inoperable and drop out of the sky. It should be noted that this...
He showed an Arab village in the picture after a rocket hit, by the way. Wait, did he? What village is this? Lebanon-Israel tensions rise. Dawn News. Is this a segment? I hope you're right about that, Sev. Because... Sorry, I should do the Hassan thing. Of course he did. All right, sorry. Why? Do you have the original picture? Where's this?
Hezbollah has reported launching rocket salvos targeting 5 residential areas in northern Israel, including the
targeting resident. Okay, interesting.
Outskirts of Krayot, near Haifa.
There's no way this is Tireh.
This escalation follows an
No.
Israeli raid that has drawn international condemnation. In a separate incident, an Israeli attack on a health center in Al-Bazuriyeh near Tyre resulted in the death of a paramedic and injuries to 12 others, including
Okay,
3
so they're not
paramedics.
telling you where this picture comes from. Let me just do an old reverse search. Okay, Sev, you're on trial now. Hezbollah says responded to pager blast by striking Israeli military-industrial complex. Are they going to tell you where this is? It's from Associated Press. Kiryat Bialik. Kiryat Bialik does not sound... Oh, it's in Haifa. The bars in the window tell you it's Arab. Okay. Well, Kiryat Bialik is in Haifa, so Haifa's mixed. Mixed city. No, apparently it's... Apparently Kiryat Bialik is a low Arab population. Whoops. Whoops. All right.
Speaking of drones, their improvements and sophistication don't stop there. Besides the one that targets jammers, their drones have successfully targeted other critical Israeli military infrastructure as well, including radar systems, Iron Dome batteries, and communication hubs. On the ground, Hezbollah has been outmaneuvering Israeli forces, inflicting high casualties and halting the IOF at every encounter.
Huge
Fighters
casualties.
operate from fortified bunkers and fire well-hidden mobile missile launchers that Israel, with all its gadgets and gizmos, cannot find or destroy. This allows Hezbollah to maintain a steady barrage of rocket attacks, striking deep into Israeli territory and overwhelming its defense systems. While Israel
Wait,
is
where's that?
to Israeli territory and overwhelming its defense.
This is probably a Jewish community, just looking at the rooftops. I guess he chose carefully then, didn't he? Just interesting. Just curious. This is also Haifa. Yeah, just to be clear, Haifa, yeah, this isn't Haifa. It says here, towards the Haifa area. Just to be clear, right, Haifa is a mixed city. It's a mixed Arab and Jewish city. 10% Arab. This is like rockets landing in Nazareth as well, and starting fires and shit.
Systems. While Israel is increasingly outmatched on its active battlefronts in Gaza,
Bam, bam.
the West Bank, and Lebanon, Ansar Allah, commonly referred to as the Houthis,
Nothing about the, it's almost like you can't aim Katyushas. Yeah, right. Okay. Nothing about the pager attack. Okay.
operating from Yemen, have, with remarkable success, disrupted trade routes in both the Red Sea and the Mediterranean by targeting ships bound for, doing business with, or otherwise associated with Israel. This includes ally shipping like that of the US. And even though Israel will never admit it, this has had a severe effect on its already flailing economy. Ansar Allah also claims to possess missiles capable of hypersonic speeds, a claim which has yet to be verified. But what
Thank you so much for clarifying that one at least.
is undeniable
Nuance,
is,
okay.
hypersonic or not, they have proven to be a serious threat to Israel. One of their Palestine II missiles was launched successfully into Israel and impacted near Ben Gurion Airport some 2,000 kilometers away. This marked the first time the group has successfully struck Israel. The strike demonstrates that not only is Israel not safe from Iranian missiles, they can't even reliably defend against a desperately underfunded group of resistance fighters from one of the poorest nations on Earth.
Wait, if you're saying it landed near Ben Gurion Airport, you understand that the Iron Dome will track a weapon. They'll track a missile, and then if it's going to hit something, they'll intercept it. But if it's not, if it's just set to land in a field, they'll just let it go. So if it landed near Ben Gurion Airport, like if it wasn't going to land on anyone, like it was just going to land in the middle of the fucking field or the desert, then they're just going to let it. Okay, lands in Israel, it's 15th of September. Yeah, this is the Houthi missile that landed. Look where it landed. Oh no. Yeah, the Iron Dome lets this happen. They let it happen. What the fuck? It's a shrub.
This marks the opening of yet another front Israel needs to monitor, taxing their strained resources even further. Israel's invasion of Lebanon is just the beginning of the expansionist ambitions of the Greater Israel Project, aka Lebensraum. In short, it's
the Nile to the Euphrates. Hey, the Euphrates, let's go. We're borrowing from the Hamas Charter now. To be fair, it's not just them that say it, but the funny thing about the Hamas Charter is the paragraph where they say this. Zionism's scheming has no end, and after Palestine they will covet expansion from the Nile to the Euphrates River. When they have finished digesting the area on which they have laid their land, they will look forward to more expansion. Their scheme has been laid out in the protocols of the elders of Zion. Okay, bub. Why did they give this up then? Why did they give up the Why did they give up the Sinai? Why did they do that?
The belief that Israel's borders should extend from the Sinai to the Euphrates. This latest invasion follows 2 Israeli terrorist attacks on Lebanon, which resulted in at least 42 deaths and over 3,500 injuries, as well as the assassination of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah.
Oh, this was after. So this was after Hezbollah were getting absolutely fucking rammed. I love it how people keep on talking about how far they got into Lebanon. Like you'll notice there's this thing where, again, like propagandists, they like to just, like, everything works, okay? Every fact, they will weave it into their narrative, okay? They have a way. The way it is here is that when Israel, at the beginning of this operation, said, we're going to do limited ground operations. That's what they said, okay? So we're going to do limited ground operations. Everyone was like, limited? You're just going to expand into greater Israel and destroy all of Lebanon and conquer it up to the Litani or beyond, right? You're going to take Beirut again. And then they do a limited operation and they only go like a few miles in on the ground. And then people are like, nice little invasion there. Sounds like you're getting pushed back a little bit. Like, yeah, they'll just do this. It's like, there's no memory. There's no object permanence to any of this shit.
Since Israel is unable to achieve meaningful strategic or even tactical victories, it relies on bombing civilian centers as punishment, as well as messy assassinations of leaders. These killings target organizations born out of earlier guerrilla struggles against Israel, and despite Israeli assassinations going back decades, these groups have only gotten more competent, more experienced, and more dangerous, as most clearly illustrated by Hezbollah. Israeli soldiers have encountered stiff resistance from Hezbollah forces. In one town, along 2 kilometers of the Lebanese border, Hezbollah fighters successfully repelled Israeli infantry after an intense hour-long battle. They were able to destroy 3 Merkava tanks with rockets as Israeli forces tried to advance towards the town.
Wait, was this the only time that they went to Marun al-Ras? The 8 soldiers died fairly early. Israel were fighting in Marun al-Ras for a while, no? Where do you get this from? Merkava tanks in Marun al-Ras. Does he have he doesn't have a citation number. You just have to guess where he is? Okay. Where's he getting this from? The 8 didn't die in Marun al-Ras proper. Yeah, they were fighting along the outside, no? But they were fighting along the outside for ages, weren't they? Oh, he's doing these quotes himself. That's why they don't show up when you Google it, because obviously Haaretz is not going to call it the IOF. Okay. Electronic Intifada? No, we already did that one. So we're using Hezbollah's statement. I can see why he doesn't bring those quotations up. I can see why he hides that. He's doing that intentionally. Okay. He's intentionally hiding the fact that he's getting his talking points on stats from Hezbollah. Okay. Good. Good. Marun al-Ras clashes. I believe the 8 people died fairly early on, right? Hezbollah said, Hezbollah stated, Hezbollah claimed. Why is the Wikipedia... yeah, the Wikipedia is useless now, apparently. Okay. This is what I remember reading. This was really early on, October 2nd. Did it say they repelled? Yeah. No, having repelled an infantry unit from penetrating its defense lines earlier, Hezbollah took Israeli soldiers head-on, trying to make inroads through the east of Marun al-Ras, the group claimed. It's all Hezbollah claims. All of it. My understanding on Marun al-Ras is they were fighting way past October 2nd in there, weren't they? Even here. Israeli was filmed raising the flag. No, they were raising the flag outside, I believe. I don't think this was inside Marun al-Ras. I think it was on the outskirts, no? From the village of Marun al-Ras in southern Lebanon, about half a mile from the border with Israel, and shared on social media. It shows 3 soldiers raising an Israeli flag atop a damaged structure surrounded by rubble. Elevated. Okay, so that's another lie. Okay, or a very incomplete story. The village was captured on October 8th. Yeah, but apparently, no, Hezbollah pushed them back and destroyed 3 tanks, okay? Do you know why I know that? Because Hezbollah said so.
The IOF later attempted a second breach of Hezbollah's defenses, which also ended with them retreating.
Wait, retreat again? You don't understand. It's another thing. Everything weaves into the narrative. First of all, we're doing a limited ground operation. Okay, that means you want to conquer and settle. And then they do the limited operation, which involves leaving. You raid a place and then leave. They're not trying to do Afghanistan. They're not trying to get bogged down in South Lebanon for another 18 years. So like they did last time, right? This was like Bint Ishbail, right? They did a raid. Like a 48-hour raid, and then the Wikipedia's for it, made up of Hezbollah claims, says that they repelled them, that they couldn't capture the town. But yeah.
Hezbollah also saw success near the village of Yarun, where forces ambushed an Israeli unit with explosives.
It's funny because I've seen these villages. I've been here. Like I've been to on the Israeli side of the border. These were the villages that I was on the hill looking at. Yarun. Am I remembering correctly? Success in Yarun from Hezbollah. NBC spoke about Yarun. Over 60% of the village has been demolished. Huh. This is the drone footage, wasn't it? That showed you Yaroun. It's pretty fancy. Here, yeah. Yeah, this is Yaroun. A village abandoned.
Resulting in an unspecified number of casualties, and which stopped the IOF from encircling the village. The occupation forces have begrudgingly confirmed that...
Wait, is that in his notes? Yaroun. Has he been watching just a completely different war? Okay.
8 soldiers were killed in their failed operations in Lebanon. In addition to those 8, 7 other Israeli soldiers were wounded. While these numbers may not seem like much, they mark a significant loss due to the small size of the Israeli units. What's more, it's important to note that Israel has imposed heavy military censorship on the northern front, and if past trends are any indication, the actual number of casualties and other losses are much greater. Israel's actions in Gaza have triggered an unprecedented shift in world opinion regarding the legitimacy of the colonial ethno-state. Bolivia, Chile, and Honduras have either severed or suspended relations, rightly accusing Israel of committing crimes against humanity. Even Colombia, a US ally, condemned their actions as genocidal and cut ties. A UN resolution backed by 124 countries demanding Israel end the occupation of Palestine has, so far, been the strongest official global opposition to the genocide. Notably opposed, of course, is the United States. Mainstream outlets like CNN and BBC have started to become more critical, or at least air more critical views, focusing on the humanitarian crisis and Palestinian casualties. Social media...
I love that. Like, oh yeah, they're starting to come on board, they're starting to come on board with the reality, right? They're not quite, they're not quite at the stage of quoting the Hamas spokesperson saying how many tanks they destroyed, armored vehicles, sorry. But they're almost there, they're almost on board, they're almost being reasonable. CNN. They're almost at a stage of taking stats on Hamas's destroyed multiple rocket launchers and saying that that these were Israeli and they were destroyed by Hamas. They're almost there. They're almost on board. Sadly, they are still lib propagandists.
Its young user base have shown everyone the horrors happening in Palestine, and some of that video evidence is coming directly from the sadistic and giddy perpetrators themselves. All of these are factors which are causing a historic collapse of one of the world's most effective PR campaigns. The numbers don't lie. Only 41% of Americans aged 18 to 29 view Israel positively. Only 24% favor its fascist regime, and only 38% believe Israel's justification for committing genocide. This has resulted in a situation where total diplomatic isolation can only be staved off by its relationship with the United States government. As all American taxpayers are aware, Israel's military leans hard on the US for its survival, a weight the US will find heavier and harder to bear as time passes. Between 2019 and 2023, 69% of Israel's major arms imports and 78% of total arms came directly from the US.
Total arms imports, not total arms. Okay.
What's more, every year, the US injects $3.8 billion in military aid to Israel, $500 million of which is earmarked just for missile defense systems, which apparently don't even work. After October 7th, the US immediately shipped thousands of precision-guided bombs and missiles which went on to kill thousands of children. But wouldn't you know it, that still wasn't enough. $106 million in tank ammunition, $147 million in artillery components, and over 100 other military categories, including bunker busters, were delivered in subsequent shipments. The US even sent the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, fighter jets, and missile defense systems to help Israel defend itself into other countries. It seems the US and Israel share the same definition of self-defense.
Defend itself, yeah, if a military from another country attacks you, you're going to maybe go into that country. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Aha, the Soviet Union is defending itself against another country, into another country. Aha. Okay.
Israel's intense genocidal campaign in Gaza, coupled with its expansionist war in Lebanon, has thrown the regime into a death spiral from which it will not escape. Diplomatic isolation, a drastically weakened military, a crumbling economy, a fleeing populace, and total dependence on the US are rapidly contributing to Israel's demise. The Palestinian resistance forces have proven that Israel's invincibility is a myth, and has exposed its explicitly fascist ambitions to the world. The tide is slowly turning, and resistance to Israel is growing stronger every day. The Israeli apartheid regime...
Hezbollah's done, man. Assad's gone. They can't get their weapons imported from Damascus anymore. You think Giuliani's going to help them? Giuliani supports Palestinians. He doesn't support Hezbollah. He hates Hezbollah and Syria don't have a very good past. He made this shit before Assad fell. This video might have been the reason Assad fell. He makes this video and then the axis of resistance just collapses 2 days later. Like, Jesus.
Regime mistakenly believes burying tens of thousands of Palestinians is cleansing the land. In reality, they are planting the seeds of their own destruction. It's important to remember that many of the events discussed in this episode are still developing, and by the time this video is released, things may look very different. Okay. While writing the script for this video, the Qassam brigades executed a bold operation inside Israel that killed 7. Shortly
inside Israel.
The Qassam brigades executed a bold...
The shooting, the one that happened at the Iran strike. This was just shooting civilians. This was just like a school shooting, like a shooting in the street, just shooting random people. Okay, just praising like a murder in the streets. Okay, the shooting was claimed by Hamas, was it? How many people died again? Was it 7 or was it? I'm wondering if it was 7, including the shooter. What was the date of the Iranian strike? Iranian strike, Israel, October 1st. The Iranian strike that killed 1 Palestinian in Jericho, by the way. Was it the Jaffa shooting? Was that 1st of October? Yeah, in Jaffa, okay. In Jaffa, Hamas carried out a gun attack. Okay, 7 civilians killed, 17 injured. This was the bold attack. Again, they're really... Oh yeah, these guys. This was them. This was the Hamas guys that did it. 3 foreign citizens. Greece, Georgia, Moldova. Okay. Again, you're kind of taking a chance when you do this, because Jaffa is 37% Arab. So you're taking a bit of a pot shot there. Statistically, they'd be lucky that they didn't kill any Palestinians doing this. I don't know if they did. They don't tell you. But they did kill 3 tourists. I was in Jaffa, man. That's fucking a bold attack.
Many of the events discussed in this episode are still developing, and by the time this video is released, things may look very different. While writing...
I guess they do, right? The axis has just imploded.
Script for this video, the Qassam brigades executed a bold operation inside Israel that killed 7, shortly followed by Iran launching 200 missiles which successfully hit bases around Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, Israel...
But they won't tell you who that one... Okay.
...continued its bombing of Beirut and Syria. Finally, 99 American doctors released a letter to the Biden-Harris regime begging for an end to the US support for Israel's genocide. We've linked the letter below, but be advised it is extremely graphic. As always, you can find our citations in the description. Yeah. First Thought will continue to...
Don't mind if I do, eh? Might find out that you're literally quoting Hamas spokespersons and confusing Hamas multiple rocket launchers with Israeli ones. Look at the fucking flag that you got this claim from. Anyway. That was fun. That was a good video. That was good memes. Do we have a clip? By the way, do we have a clip? Did someone clip the electronic intifada? Shit.